traditional lands of Treaty 8. Last summer, news of the wood buffalo fire circled the globe. YouTube videos shot by evacuees fleeing town as flames licked the side of the highway got millions of views. But one of the most widely circulated images was taken after the fire, and what a powerful image it was. Firefighters had created a massive arch with fire truck ladders on the King Street overpass over Highway 63. From that arch, they hung the Alberta, Canada, and wood buffalo flags. And under the flags, heroes who never left waved to returning residents to welcome them back home. It's appropriate that they use that bridge. It was the lifeline of the evacuation. It is a vital part of the Fort McMurray community, and that makes it a fitting monument of thanks to the first responders of the wood buffalo fire. I'm talking about the provincial and municipal firefighters, the police, military, forestry and wildlife personnel, and emergency medical personnel, who put themselves between harm and the people they worked so successfully to save, who continued to put aside their exhaustion after the battle was won so that they could provide a homecoming worth remembering, as Fort McMurray residents began an emotional return to their community. It's important to note that the evacuation was not without fatalities. Sadly, we lost 2 young people in a crash on Highway 881 during the evacuation. The community still feels for the loss of Emily Ryan and Aaron Hodgson. While no words of mine could ease their loss, I'd like to express the condolences once again of the Government of Alberta to their families. The wildfire crisis was especially personal for these families, and we must remember their loss. Despite this tragedy, I am proud to be standing here today in memory of those 2 young people, of all Albertans who were affected by the wildfire, and of the brave women and men who worked so hard to save so many. As Transportation Minister, I also want to acknowledge the tireless and dedicated work of my own regional staff here in Fort McMurray. They too, along with so many others, are deserving of our thanks and recognition. The depth of gratitude felt by the people of Fort McMurray and the regional municipality of Wood Buffalo and the people of Alberta can never be repaid, but it can be acknowledged. I want to thank Councillor Keith McGrath for leading the push to have the bridge renamed. And I want to thank the regional municipality of Wood Buffalo for bringing the proposal to our government. Last fall, Premier Notley was proud to rename the King Street overpass as Responders Way Bridge in recognition of all first responders' role in the wildfire and evacuation. Today, we will officially make that change. It's my honor to add my voice to those of Wood Buffalo residents as we thank all of the first responders for having the courage and commitment in the face of their own danger to stand by the people they serve. Please accept this dedication as a physical expression of the thanks of a grateful community and province. Let it also stand as a reminder to the people of Wood Buffalo that you are not alone as you rebuild. While incredible progress has been made over the past 9 months, our government knows that the recovery will really take years, not just months. That's why we will continue to stand by you for the long haul and support you as you rebuild your homes, your businesses, your neighborhoods, and your communities. So thank you very much for coming, and I have a little bit of a presentation to make. If I could get Fire Chief Jody Butts and EMS Associate Director Rob Barron here, I'd like to make a presentation. Oh, you're here. Good, thank you very much. Yeah, thanks very much. So these are replicas. Don't take my microphone.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. These are replicas of the sign that's going to appear above the bridge, Responders Way, and I'd like to present them to both gentlemen on behalf of all of the people that you represent. ATS Traffic for supplying these signs. We very much appreciate that donation, so thank you.
Thank you, Minister Mason. The municipal administration here, led by Mayor Melissa Blake, led a remarkable response to a sudden and rapidly changing disaster. I now introduce Mayor Melissa Blake and invite her up to the podium to share a few words.
Mr. Minister, thank you for being here today. Ladies and gentlemen, special guests behind me, and every single person who is here, of course, on that fateful day of May the 3rd. I can stand here with great delight and tell you, as we unveil the Responders Way, how significantly important that is to this region. As a member of council, and my colleagues can attest to this as well, Councillor Jane Stroud and Tyron Alt are here with me. The other folks were busy with their daytime jobs. But as we were navigating, sometimes from afar, sometimes within the community, it's no more poignant than the image that Minister Mason had left with the crossed cranes and the giant Canadian flag. After all that we had been through, thinking about what had remained because of the efforts of those first responders, not only firstly getting most people out very safely to the destinations beyond, but the return home. Nothing was more poignant than that image. I was fairly stoic through the entire events that had unfolded, could face any kind of loss, any kind of destruction, any kind of devastation without much emotion on display. But I came back twice. The first day when the first people got to come home, and then the second day that was my home. And the first day overwhelmed me for the first time in that event, and it was because of the incredible sense of gratitude and pride that we had in reflecting those incredible efforts, again, that people, not only in this room, but farther beyond as well, had put into making sure that we could be here. I know that the word hero is a bit taboo, but I don't only represent our first responders. I represent those 88,000 citizens as well, and you're not going to be able to avoid it. So we are here today celebrating those incredible efforts that we will call heroic. The idea for Responders Way originated from a local resident, somebody that I know and consider a good friend, who has a husband that I believe serves in the industrial firefighting area as well. But Shelley had sort of pitched the idea to Keith, and Keith is wonderful. He went directly through the process to make this much more known, and again, to the province for actually being here today to take this up. The eyes on our community had certainly witnessed everything from the very first fleeing moments to the very final ones where we came home and had that image, again, of our heroes on that bridge. I want to applaud the incredible work of those men and women within the regional emergency services and all responders as well. Day in and day out, they serve our community in regular ways with professionalism, dedication, and heart. So I guess I would say that it wasn't much of a surprise to see how they responded that day in May. When the wildfire had swept through our region, these responders worked tirelessly to ensure that we got out safely and had a community to which we could return. When everyone else evacuated, myself included, they stayed behind. They worked around the clock, catching few moments of sleep wherever and whenever they could. They did it, of course, with less than optimal nutrition, less than optimal laundry services. I called them the dirty and devoted, and that's how you knew where heroes resided. So they were out there saving what they could, property, pets, and critical infrastructure. They did this while they lost their own homes, but they continued fighting to save others in neighborhoods across our communities. When the fire finally retreated, we saw that they had achieved what I had conceived as impossible from my office window all that day, and then the next day as I evacuated north into the camps. I was convinced we would lose so much more, and human lives included. But what you did, you saved the vast majority of our community, including key infrastructure like that critical water treatment plant, the airport, and many of our neighborhoods. There are some incredible people, of course, that were in roles of leadership at that time, and just a few that I will name simply because they're in my notes, but I know I'm missing many more that are so important. Chief Butts, our new fire chief, Superintendent Dix, our new our new police chief, Chief Newton, Dale Benfeld, who is in the REOC as well, Mr. Barone, and on behalf of council and the residents of Wood Buffalo, I extend our deep appreciation to the teams which responded, all the first responders, in fact, all responders, as I say, for the outstanding service to community. That hard-fought victory was based on the contributions of a great many men and women. You're all heroes of gigantic proportions, and we owe you a debt of gratitude that we know can never truly be repaid. Minister, of course, we thank you for being here today, and thanks to the province of Alberta for officially recognizing the incredible efforts of all first responders, everyone from fire, EMS, our rural departments, industry, forestry, bylaw, Alberta Sheriffs, and Alberta Transportation. It is my hope forever that Responders Way becomes that powerful symbol to community and the reminder of the incredible generosity, courage, and bravery that we witnessed in 2016. Thank you, incredibly so.
Thank you, Mayor Blake. The dedicated and hardworking firefighters risk their lives to save so much of the city. I now invite Fire Chief Butts to the podium to share his thoughts on behalf of first responders.
Good morning. Minister Mason, Mayor Blake, members of council, fellow first responders, ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor and a privilege for me to be here today to represent the men and women who stayed behind to defend our home. The Horse River Fire was deemed the largest natural disaster in recent Canadian history. The scale of the emergency response or operation was unprecedented. This triggered an immediate response from first responders all over the Wood Buffalo region. On behalf of the Regional Emergency Services of Wood Buffalo, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all of the response personnel, men, every last man and woman who offered their assistance and joined us in the fight of a lifetime. Members of the Fort McMurray Fire Department, you were the first to respond to the wildfire that entered our community. Soon to arrive were Wood Buffalo's rural volunteer departments, Sappery Creek Fire Department, Anzac Fire Department, Conklin Fire Department, Fort McKay Fire Department, and members of the Fort Chippewa Fire Department. The first responders from our industrial partners from around the region joined the response without hesitation. It is without question your immediate response to our call for help changed the outcome. To all the responders in forestry, thank you for your vast skill set, your knowledgeable insight, and your professional approach. The evacuation efforts of the RCMP bylaw, Alberta Sheriff's Department, of an entire city of the Fort McMurray is nothing short of remarkable. It was a collective effort of all the first responders that enabled us to stand here today. Your courageous acts under the most extraordinary of circumstances and the most challenging of conditions is something you can all be very proud of. It is important to note that the damage caused by the wildfire is well documented, but the amount that was saved by the efforts of the first responders can never be measured. On behalf of the first responders, I'd like to send a heartfelt thank you to the countless messages of support, acts of kindness sent to the first responders from across Alberta, across Canada, and around the world. Above all, as any one of our residents can tell you, the love and commitment that we have for this community is stronger than ever. Thank you to Minister Mason and the provincial government for your support and recognizing these outstanding men and women that protect our region every day. Today, as we officially name Responders Way, we do so with the confidence that the first responders in the Wood Buffalo region are one of the strongest in the country. Responders Way will remind us of the determination and the sense of duty that all of our first responders who held that line against the wildfire and helped this community rise from the ashes and rebuild stronger than ever. This experience that we've all went through has left us all with a common bond we will all share for the rest of our lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Butts. So we do have time now for a few questions from the media, so I will invite Minister Mason back up to the podium, along with Mayor Melissa Blake and Fire Chief Jody Butts.
numbers on that? Sorry, thank you. Does the province, Mr. Mason, have any numbers on how many structures,
It's believed were saved over those 3 or 4 days?
Not specific numbers or values, but as the mayor mentioned, the critical infrastructure was saved, the downtown, the airport, the water treatment plant, which was absolutely essential, and many of the neighborhoods were saved as well. So, considering what hit this community, I think the results are nothing short of amazing, and a true testament to the dedication of all of the people who fought that fire.
The numbers at the time that were being thrown out were, an estimate of 90%. Do you feel that's accurate? 90% of the city saved? Is that somewhere in the ballpark of?
I'd say so. Sometimes those numbers feel a bit confusing when they say 2,400 structures are lost. Some of them are multifamily units, so if it's an apartment in Abbotsford, as an example, it represents more than the average square foot lot. So when you look at those numbers, again, 90% is a fairly accurate feeling, but I do it instinctively. If I drive through the neighborhoods that were most hardly hit, including Stone Creek and Wood Buffalo Way, they're places that you will see the surrounding zones that are still structurally complete as being very holistic, and it's more difficult when you go into places like Abbotsford or Beacon Hill or even Waterways, which suffered an 85% structure loss. Those are the areas that you feel so much more poignantly, but combined, 90% just feels right to me.
Can you give us some numbers on how many responders responded to the fire? And can you break it down by police, EMT, firefighters? Yeah.
I don't have those numbers, in my pocket here right now, but I can tell you there was a large amount. Certainly from the Wood Buffalo region, the forestry had a large complement of equipment and manpower that came, and let's not forget the rest of the fire departments that came from the rest of Alberta. They helped us in day 2, 3, and beyond to help get this community back. So, no, I don't have the exact numbers with me, but they are out there. Yeah.
Just for the Fort McMurray, for the Wood Buffalo Emergency Services, is there a number for that?
Everyone.
And how much is that?
So sure. I wanted to. We have the regional emergency services in town here. We have there's 208 members, and that's the frontline operational staff. In those days, some of the folks left their normal jobs and went and did what they had to do. We had prevention staff, we had administrative staff step up and do whatever was needed to do it. The no quit and determination during those times, it was really remarkable. And like I said, the support, our region is very unique in the fact that the amount of emergency services that we have available to our region, and when I say that, I mean our industrial partners from around the region. They have emergency services personnel there, and they came without question. So that number was very large, and it took a collective effort in order to do what we did.
To the fire chief and to Mayor Blake, I know, immediately after the fire, Slave Lake offered advice, help, and volunteer firefighters to come up and help. Obviously, you talk about how you appreciate all the help, but was there something extra special about the people who had been through a very similar traumatic experience coming up and immediately offering to, help out?
Absolutely, without question. So certainly because they had a similar experience, they are the lessons learned that we take from them and build upon here for Wood Buffalo. And what I learned very early on is that not just the fire response, where we benefited from people coming in from not only Slave Lake, but many other departments, Alberta and through the country, that effort is very much in line with what their day-to-day jobs kind of sort of look like, only in the extreme end. And that support was critical for the saving of the community, basically. When you look at the next level, though, it is how does a community cope? How do they get through those early stages through the evacuation? What did they do there versus what we should do here? And we did learn lessons, and I'll give you the first example that comes to mind. when people are away, it's easy to say, we got to get you back real quick. We couldn't do real quick because of the extent of the fire, but we also knew when we came back in that we couldn't let everybody back to what home used to be if it wasn't there. And the necessity of ensuring safety as they did get to reclaim their lots, we didn't want to eliminate their opportunity to salvage what they could from those precious mementos that were there. We took a longer time to do that they did in Slave Lake, and we did it because we were warned by Slave Lake that people will feel such incredible loss, and any benefit that you can derive from that is worth the effort. So that's just one example, but here we are just last couple of days. I had a visit with the folks from Slave Lake informing our recovery committee, and we're almost a year out of the event, and so being able to probe what happens along the path of recovery has been beneficial to me. So what I'm hoping when we get to the end of our journey, whether it's in 5 years from now or however long that looks for our recovery, we will become the lessons learned, and those lessons will be shared with others to learn from what we have had for experiences as well. And every time we learn lessons, we all get better for it. So thanks for the question.
I was just wondering, whose idea was it that day to go to the overpass and create that arch?
Yeah, that image has become iconic and not on purpose. It was, you know, it was we were searching for some way to, during the re-entry phase of our community, searching for some way to reach out to our citizens and to express upon them that it is safe to come back, and we're still here. It's interesting, as us on the fire department, we were a bit hesitant on it, to be honest, and but the reception was incredible through the ordeal that we had just went through, and to be honest, I can speak for myself that I spent some time up there too, waving our residents back in, and it was very, very therapeutic, and it's kind of morphed into this iconic thing, but. Something we're very proud of, and I hope our community residents can remember that by, and yeah, thanks for the question.
Just to follow up to that, though, was it one person specifically that came up with the idea of doing that?
No, I'm going to have to say it was a collective effort. It was kind of a group of minds that got together and just what's the best way to do this. So it was important to us, and obviously, as it turns out, it was important to the community too. So yeah, that was very good.
How are we as a community going to remember the anniversary? Can you give us any insight?
Really can't. It's a tricky question, and when we had the Slave Lake folks here, same thing. What do you do in a circumstance like this? We really have been encouraged to measure how far we've come through this, and we've come pretty far in a short time. We know we have a lot farther to go, and I suspect that there will be some sort of engagement where we're able to invite people to hear some speeches, but to make it a celebration is absolutely a non-starter. It's not a celebration. It's simply a commemoration that we had an event, that we are making progress, and that we have still a lot more work to do to get to the end of that. So I can't give you the outcome. We've got committees that are considering it. We'll think about those things, but there'll be something. It just isn't going to be fireworks and celebration.
Okay. Just to Minister Mason, there was a UNESCO report released today about the Wood Buffalo National Park. As you know, the World Heritage Committee is assessing whether it should be listed as a site that is in danger. Mm-hmm. And the report today came out and said that the federal government needs to have an action plan, or else they would recommend that it receives that status. I'm just wondering if there's any response from the provincial government to what would be a black mark on Canada's environmental record.
Well, I've been in politics for nearly 30 years, and I know when not to answer a question. And I haven't seen the report. It's obviously a recommendation to the federal government, and I'm sure that the appropriate person in the appropriate time can provide you with the right answer. Sorry.
I was wondering, knowing what you know now, would you have dealt with the natural disaster how you did? Is there anything that you would change if something to this scale were to happen again with you and your team?
Yeah, given the circumstances that we were faced, and any time in emergency services, you always have a chance to reflect and would you have done things differently? And absolutely, we maybe could have done a couple things. I mean, I can speak for myself what I would have done, but then I think to myself, this was the largest disaster in recent Canadian history. It was unprecedented. There was nothing to draw from. There was no experiences that anybody could reach out to and draw those and bring them in and help. So, to the men and women that were making those decisions, and to the men and women that were on the front line, it was we were really rewriting the book there. The experiences that we've gained, like I said, and the experiences that we gained, and we're still here. So. We're stronger for it, and I mean it, that we're probably one of the stronger group of first responders in the rest of the country because of that experience, and that's just a testitude of everyone sticking together, and that common goal that we all shared. If I was to share something with you, it was all the I suppose you could say the little problems in life from a day-to-day all disappeared at that time. And everybody came to come together and do a common goal, and the no quit in the first responders was incredible, and that's really how the outcome as it was.
Can we get the first responders? Sure. If we can invite all of the responders up here for a quick photo.
Yeah, please. So, you know what? I look in the crowd here, and tons of men and women in uniform, and it's truly about you guys. So, if I could ask all of you folks that are in uniform and or not on uniform, please come up here, and everyone should recognize you guys.